And once again, it's time for some horror with the horror guys.
With the horror guys. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And it's the December Christmas season, so it's time for December horror movies.
This is our second week of probably 4 or 5 weeks of Christmas movies.
There are so many Christmas movies out there that we're able to fill a month's worth.
We could fill a whole nother month's worth without any effort, just from Tubi, I think.
Yeah.
They have so much crap on Tubi.
It's amazing how many people have embraced Christmas to make horror movies.
Well, it's a quiet, calm holiday with fun and family and love and giving. So what alternates with that?
And that's reflected. That's reflected in many of these movies here too.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Well, what do we got this week?
Oh, we have The Mean One, which might remind you of some other green creature that's related to Christmas.
He who shall not be named under any circumstances.
He shall not be named, yeah. And then we're going to abuse the homeless in 2016's Good Tidings.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Oh, it's a mean movie, yeah. And then we go to an alternate universe in It's a Wonderful Knife from 2023.
I've seen that over and over every year.
Knife, K-N-I-F-E.
Oh.
Yeah, they do a play on, It's a Wonderful Life. And we're going to wander around the parking garage looking for a Christmas turkey in P2.
Found it.
From 2007. And then we're going to watch an oldie, a classic from 1972 with Whoever Slew Auntie Roo.
Okay.
Yeah, which was weird.
It was definitely weird.
It was weird enough where I can see why it's stuck around.
Has it, though?
It's not great, but it's weird enough to be interesting, and there's some real elements to it that make it watchable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have 5 short films for you. A couple of them are holiday themed, but that's not going to be a rule this month.
My favorite one is a holiday themed one.
My favorite one is my favorite 2 are holiday themed ones.
Okay, yeah, that's true. We got 2 of them. Yeah.
And of course, Horror Monthly, the magazine, is now on sale. Issue number 39. It's got a skull on the front, as many of them seems to do.
What a nice Christmas gift that would make for someone.
It would. And the previous issue, and you could get the whole set if you wanted to.
You could stuff all the stockings.
Yeah, you set all those paperbacks next to each other. It's like 2 feet of books at this point.
Nice.
39 issues.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course you could pick those up over at horrormonthly.com, where it lists all the current issue plus all the back issues and links to pick those up wherever it is you'd like to buy your books. Got an Amazon gift card? I know what you can get.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
All right, well, let's see. Of those movies this week, The Mean One, Good Tidings, It's a Wonderful Knife, P2.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first one is my favorite.
Yeah, me too, The Mean One. I would go with The Mean One as my favorite.
It's from 2022.
Spoiler. Yeah, we haven't even talked about it yet. We're talking about our favorite.
Directed by Stephen Lamort, written by Flip Kobler, Finn Kobler, and Stephen Lamort. Stars David Howard Thornton. Between his Terrifier movies.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal Martin and Chase Mullins. Hour and 32 minutes. Trailer in the show notes.
He has the mime thing going on in this one, too. He plays the mean one.
If you look at the cover of
dialogue.
the poster for this one, you know exactly what's happening here. This cover shows it all.
He's a green, mean, angry-looking, furry creature. In a Santa
He's the
suit.
Grinch. Just
no, he's
say
not.
It. Just
no, he's
say
not.
It.
No, we don't say that. Well, I'm going to spoiler-free judgment on it. This was a totally fun and horror-filled take on The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. And they dance completely around actually saying Grinch and avoiding copyright infringement, or just doing it on purpose.
Yeah, things like the
it
Pooh,
became a
Pooh
joke.
and
Yeah.
I guess Steamboat Willie and all the Popeyes coming up with new horror movies. These things have fallen into the public domain. But the Grinch came out like 30 years after those. He's very still copyrighted.
And it's awesome how they dance around and put in so many references. Like the main girl is named Cindy, and it's what's the town name?
Whoville.
Newville.
Yes,
Newville. Yeah, and there's a character named Dr. Zeus. Yeah, it's very funny. But there's a deadly green monster that holds the town of Newville in the grip of fear. So will things work out as a happy ending like in the classic cartoon? Gotta watch to find out.
We'll find out, yes. Well, it's a happy-looking Christmas, and Cindy, you-know-who, when her Christmas was stolen. And we see this little girl come down the stairs, and she finds this green thing in a Santa suit stealing her Christmas tree. And she says she forgives him, and his heart grows 3 sizes that day, and he changed inside. But our narrator says that's not how it really happened. Turns out, Cindy's mother catches a monster in their living room, and he kills her.
And Cindy sees it.
Credits roll.
Yeah, how's that
That's
for
not how this show ends.
How's that for a horror start? Yeah.
20 years later, Cindy returns to Newville at the request of her therapist. Deputy Burke pulls her over because she has antlers on the car, and that's against the town ordinance. That was odd.
They don't do any Christmas decorations in town.
The deputy obviously likes Cindy, and vice versa. Lou, Cindy's father, is all in for that to go somewhere. That night in her old house, she wakes up with nightmares of the monster from so long ago. In the morning at breakfast, Cindy remembers Sheriff Hooper. When she was little, she drew a picture of a green-faced monster who killed her mother. He never did believe there was a monster, just a man in a green mask. Lou complains that nobody in town sells Christmas decoration, because no one here will buy them. Lou wants to decorate anyway. He's got the Christmas spirit, but nobody in this town seems to have that.
Nobody in the town does.
Cindy gets locked outside the house, and somehow the monster gets inside and kills Lou. It also steals all the Christmas decorations. Cindy then wakes up in the hospital with blood on her hands. Deputy Burke takes her statement, and he's the only one who listens. Mayor McBean, is that something for the stories? Because that's just a great name.
It is a great name, but I don't remember that from the story.
Mayor McBean is out campaigning, and she asks how Cindy is doing.
There was a mayor of the Whoville town in the cartoon.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more the book than the cartoon.
Well, yeah.
Cindy swears it was the same killer who got her mother, but no one believes her description. Why would the Christmas killer return after exactly 20 years, killing someone in the same family? Well, Burke offers Cindy a reason to stay in town, but it's not enough. The mayor and the sheriff argue about what needs to be done about Cindy. Well, meanwhile, Cindy cleans up the blood and finds a flower on the floor. Those flowers only grow up on the mountain, and the mountain looks just like the one out of the books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all twisty and bendy.
And towering over the town. Yeah.
So she decides to hike up there. She spots someone being attacked by the Grinch. No, we don't say the Grinch, running joke in the movie. They say everything but.
Mm-hmm.
The victim loses her glasses and can't describe the monster. The sheriff blames Cindy for ending Christmas in their whole town. Well, a whole van load of drunken Santas arrive in town and stops at the diner. The diner owner goes into the back to get their drinks, and the creature comes in and murders the whole pile of them. Every last one of them without saying a word.
And this is why there's no Christmas decorations or anything in town, because anytime you put anything up or even, singing Christmas carols is a risk. It draws the monster. He's drawn to the Christmas stuff and will do away with it.
By the time the diner owner comes out of the walk-in freezer, everyone outside is dead. Cindy sees the news reports on TV. Later that night, Cindy's attacked, but the creature is run off by an old man called Dr. Zeus.
Dr.
Zeus, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, he knows all about the creature and has been watching her since she returned to town. Yeah, he's kind of a stalkery kind of guy.
Yeah, but he's on her side.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll stop there.
Okay.
Well, the mean one was obviously someone who shall not be named due to copyrights.
Well, they just went with the joke, too.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. There's a lot of references.
There's a lot of almost saying the name.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ongoing jokes of the film is how they skirt around saying it, but the rhyming narrator kind of gives it away, too. He narrates everything in rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Zeus drinks from a bottle of Geisel, if that hints it even further. The Not Grinch, or the mean one here, is played by David Howard Thornton, better known for playing Art the Clown in the Terrifier series. He's always good in non-speaking mime-type roles, but the creature, however, looks a lot like the version of the Grinch from the Jim Carrey films.
Yeah, he does.
I wonder if they just bought an off-the-store mask or something. How were they able to do that?
Well, it's a full suit, but yeah, it did look a lot like him.
Well, Dr. Seuss's characters is copyrighted. I'm sure Jim Carrey's character would be, too.
It seems like it.
It sure looks like it, though.
Uh-huh, it did.
Well, it's more of a horror satire parody than strictly a comedy or a horror film, but taken in the manner it was intended, it's very good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
And this
Yeah.
one is our winner of the week, I think.
Good mix of humor and horror.
Yeah, we got some other good stuff here, but that I think is our favorite.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah.
All right, for the one that I'm just like WTFing about here is 2016's Good Tidings.
Uh-huh.
Directed by Stuart W. Bedford, written by him and Giovanni Gentile and Stu Jopia. Stars Alan Mulhall, Claire Crossland, and Johnny Hist.
And
Hour 39 minutes, trailer in the show notes.
And none of these are names that I'd heard of before, but it's nicely made. The whole package, the direction, the acting, the practical effects.
Yeah, it's very dirty, gritty, grindhousey looking.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's
But it's
made.
2016. It's not an old movie.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like it is, though.
Yeah.
Well, spoiler free. Crazy people do crazy things in this movie with no magic or monsters. There's 3 bad guys. They're suitably creepy, masked, and silent.
They're dressed as Santas with Santa masks, even.
Weird Santa masks.
Yeah.
I made that comment. They look like the Doctor Who villains in that one episode.
Yeah.
And they do.
Kinda, yeah. Uh-huh.
The characters are fleshed out enough to care about, with decent acting all around, realistic effects. It's a little stretched out here and there, but overall it's pretty good, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like seeing the homeless massacred.
It's
a little bit of a mean story.
Yeah, it's got a mean streak to it.
Yeah.
Running through it.
What happens?
Well, a man in Santa pants goes out to the backyard of his house and falls down. He's drunk as heck. As he puts on his coat and gets ready to get into his car.
This guy coming out of the door.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Like 5 seconds in, I'm saying, this is going to be really British, isn't it? There's just everything about this scene makes this look very British.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did.
Nobody has even spoken yet.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't see the 3 men in masks who come up behind and kill him. Well, Santa loses his head as the 3 maniacs check out what's in his trunk. And credits roll. Well, soon the 3 maniacs are all dressed as Santa and play kickball with the first man's head.
Well, if the first guy was going to go play Santa, for a job or something, why did he have 3
Why
suits
did he
in the
have
trunk?
3 suits? Yeah, that's
Because the plot requires it.
I guess you want to have a couple spares, I guess. Yeah. Well, a couple of homeless men, Sam and John, dumpster dive for food. We see the Santas drive past Sam and John as they go inside a closed-up courthouse downtown. Sam explains that they've been camping in this building for over a month now, and no one has really noticed yet. And they've kind of established this as a homeless home.
They've got it pretty good
yeah.
for Christmas.
Yeah.
They're all very appreciative of having this nice warm building that's got electric and heat and everything.
Yeah, they've got the utilities, working again. They're a couple guys smart enough to, hotwire things basically, and it's warm, and they've got some collective food.
It's good while it lasts.
Yeah. Well, we meet Paul and Mara O'Connor, 2 more people living in the building. Roxy is there. She's an addict who's having issues recovering. She and Sam talk about his past. The homeless have really taken over the whole building. Whole building. It's almost like a happy little miniature town inside.
Everybody's getting along. Everybody's contributing. It's nice.
Except the 3 Santas show up, and they head in toward the bank. It seemed like a bank and courthouse sometimes, because there were,
There's cells. And there's a big bench where the judge would sit.
Yeah.
It is a court. We thought it was a bank at first, but it becomes clear that it's a courthouse.
Yeah. Well, they come in and they chain the door shut behind them. That can't be good. Well, John, the new guy, is amazed that all these homeless people can be so happy. It's almost too good to be true, he thinks.
And he really doesn't believe it. He's very, what's the trick?
Yeah. Well, one man steps outside and one of the Santas stabs him through the eye with a candy cane.
That's the trick.
Yeah. And the Santas converge on the main group of people and start butchering them. Sam, who's a former soldier, takes charge, leads Paul and Mona downstairs to hide in a cell. And many others try for the front doors, but they can't get out. Those are the main door that's got bolted. Paul has a heart attack, so Sam and Mona have to devise a plan. Upstairs, Roxy and John hide while others are massacred, and they are soon captured.
And we'll stop there.
We'll start.
Yeah.
Because basically it's 3 psychos on a rampage with this group of people that they have trapped.
Yeah. Well, it's never explicitly stated, but in the opening scene, the three men are all wearing hospital gowns. So it seems likely that they've escaped from a mental hospital.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Their ongoing silence add lots to the creep factor. They move and sound more like apes than men. Supposedly, two of them are twin brothers. That's why they act like that.
Oh, okay.
But they swing their arms. Like they're really more monkey-like than men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lots of people die in this, but there's very little gore at all other than a few blood splatters.
Well, there's some that are pretty gory.
It's gritty, grainy, and visceral. The budget seems very low, all filmed in one building with actors that I've never heard of. It's an interesting premise and set, distinctive characters, and unusual villains. With all this, it should be pretty good. It's kind of stretched out, though, and too long between the action scenes.
Yeah, it does get that way. Yeah.
We never get any real motivation behind the killers other than they're crazy, but it seems like there should be more to it than that.
No, they were just crazy.
Why did they go to this place to do the killings? Why did they come, with a chain for the door? They came very prepared, like they knew what they were doing.
Well, I think that,
but there's no reason they should know.
It's random with no reason, just because they're crazy, and I think that adds to the sense of horror and hopelessness.
Just because.
Yeah, yeah. And there were some moments where, and it's hard to judge how you'd react in this situation, but the three killers were outnumbered at more than one point.
Oh, yeah, there was like 20 or 30 people in that one room.
And everybody just screams and runs instead of fighting back. But, who are you going to, and these are homeless people.
Well, they are homeless people. They're usually pretty passive, afraid of things. They're more afraid of getting caught than anything else. And yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I could too. Yeah. But overall, I thought they pulled it off.
Yeah.
It's dreary and not a happy movie, but it's good. Yeah.
All right, and this might be a good time to plug our other podcast, Classics Weekly. ClassicsWeekly.com, which hasn't been weekly in quite a while, but we're going to do them while we can. And we talk about a classic horror movie each podcast. What have we done? Singing in the Rain, Casablanca,
12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men.
Mm-hmm.
The book one.
The book one?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird, okay.
And, believe it or not, coming up in a few days, we're going to do It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Which I don't know that I've ever actually watched all the way through before. It was surprising to me.
I saw it all the way through long ago.
Yeah.
It was interesting seeing it again.
It was it's very good.
It is good.
I thought it was just a cliched, family, nonsensical Christmas movie, and it's actually really good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, check that out, classicsweekly.com. And we watched that because of this next one. Yep. It's 2023's It's a Wonderful Knife.
Now, the basic premise of It's a Wonderful Life is this guy goes through some bad times, and he's depressed and thinks that the world would have been better, not just if he was gone, but if he had never existed at all.
And then he gets to see what happens
and he
if
gets
that's
to
true.
see what would have played out if he hadn't existed.
And this one's the same thing.
Yep,
but it's a horror movie.
Borrows that concept, yeah.
Yeah, directed by Tyler McIntyre, written by Michael Kennedy, stars Jane Widdop, Joel McHale, Justin Long, and Jess McLeod. Hour and 27 minutes, and there's a trailer for YouTube, as always. Spoiler-free.
Spoiler-free, like we said, it was a horror take on It's a Wonderful Life, where a young woman stops a serial killer. And a year passes, and she's had a really bad time, and she wishes that she had never been born. And she makes this wish, and she gets to see how different and worse the world would be without her. It's got plenty of horror, loaded with dark humor. It was pretty good. A moderate thumbs up. Not a super love for it, but
it's fine for what it was.
It was fine, and I was entertained. Yeah, it was good.
Well, we open on Henry Waters doing a promotional video for Angel Falls. He's the mayor, and he does the big Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Winnie, David, Jimmy, and Gail are out walking, but David is stopped by Henry, who wants him to work late, breaking up the family fun. He wants to build a new shopping mall in town, and the only holdout is one historic old house owned by old man Roger Evans, who doesn't care for Henry. Roger brings up what a good man Henry's father was, which offends Henry. He still refuses to sign any papers. You know Henry's a bad guy when he's trying to evict the cigarette-smoking man.
On Christmas, no less.
On Christmas, yes.
Yeah.
Winnie is friends with Kara, Roger's granddaughter, and they talk about how evil Henry is. Meanwhile, Roger gets a knock on his door, and there's a white-clad assassin there who jumps out and cuts the old man's throat.
And it took me a minute to realize what he was dressed as, the Christmas tree angel, the treetop angel.
Is he?
Yeah, that's what he is, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, you didn't realize that?
No.
Yeah.
I thought he just looked like a Moon Knight ripoff.
Yeah, that's not what he was doing, because he's completely dressed in white, even with a white mask that covers his face.
Well, I did read
and wings.
That was the way the killer in Scream was supposed to be done in white, and this was sort of an homage to that.
Oh, okay.
But they found out the white killer in Scream didn't look as good, so they gave him a black cloak instead.
Oh, I never heard that. Yeah.
Well, Winnie and Kara go to a party with many teenagers who all kind of blur together indistinguishably.
Yeah,
it's another teenage party with people in it.
Uh-huh.
There's a weird girl there who Darla tells Winnie not to socialize with. Jimmy is out in the woods with his boyfriend, and we see the killer nearby. The killer then kills Kara's boyfriend instead. And then he kills Kara in front of everyone. The killer grabs Winnie, but she breaks loose and runs away. Jimmy gets into the fight as well, and as the killer attacks Jimmy, Winnie electrocutes the baddie with a car battery. She pulls off the mask, and we see that it's Mayor Henry Waters.
Holy
Credits
crap.
roll.
Holy crap, Justin Long died again in a horror movie?
In the opening.
Yeah.
All right, and then we're not going to get into it beyond that because that was a lot just even before the credits.
Mm-hmm.
Bad things happen to Winnie, and she wishes she was never born, and she finds out what happens if that takes place.
Yeah, a year later, a year has passed, and then she goes back, and the killings are happening again, and she knows who the killer is, right? This should be
She knows who the killer was.
What an easy case to solve.
You'd think.
Well, it's more complicated than that, but yeah, it was decent. Yeah.
Isn't Winnie supposed to have a guardian angel or someone to explain everything to her? At one point, Winnie tells Bernie, "You can be my Clarence." Wait a minute. So if she knows if she knows about Clarence, she knows about the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
Uh-huh.
So this plot actually occurs in the movie?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Several times, Henry was down for a while, and no one bothered to just finish him off, even after Winnie knew that was her purpose there.
And I'm going to chime in and say that was the weakest point of the movie, because there were several points where it could have ended right there, and they milked it out by making them like, oh, the killer's down, eek, run.
Especially since she knows in her mind she's already killed him once. The second time shouldn't be that hard.
Well, hard. She's a good person, but still, it was a little bit contrived.
My purpose for being in this universe is to kill this bad person.
Yeah.
I will bang him over the head and then run away.
At more than one point they did that.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think that was its weakest point, but, looking past that, it was overall entertaining. Yeah.
Justin Long is clearly having fun here with his silly voice. He dies twice in this one.
Yes, he does.
Maybe a new record for him.
Spoiler.
All the acting here is good, and although there are way too many random teenagers at parties, because that one I mentioned isn't the only one, but we eventually figure out which characters matter.
And that's something I liked about It's a Wonderful Life, and happens again in this one too, where there's a lot of characters playing basically two versions of themselves.
There's a young one and an old one, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, this one doesn't have much of that.
Yeah, it does have some. Yeah. The same people in the universe where Winnie doesn't exist.
But there's only a year difference.
Oh, yeah, but they're
they are very different.
Well, she never existed, so it's more than a year difference. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing.
All right. Well, it's a tired old plot that's been remade way too many times. But it's well done, and it still had a few surprises to it.
Yeah, it does.
Even though you find out who the killer is in the first 10 minutes.
It's not
There's
that
more
simple.
to it than that. There really is,
Yeah, it's worth the watch.
All right, now one that's not worth the watch. 2007's P2.
Just too long and stretched out. And it was only an hour and 38 minutes. It seemed way longer than that.
It did. Yeah, there was just too much of it.
The premise is okay, but not enough to it, and, it just kept going and going.
Directed by Frank Calfoun, written by Alexandra Aja, Gregory Levasseur, and Frank Calfoun. Stars Rachel Nichols, Wes Bentley, and Simon Reynolds. Hour and 38 minutes.
Trailer in the show notes.
I think it could have been an hour and 10 minutes and probably would have been much better for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a decent game of cat and mouse with a strong female lead who fights back against a baddie. It's well made, and the great setting of a real underground parking ramp, but we both thought it dragged on a bit too long. The actual runtime isn't excessive, but it could have been tightened up, and it deserves only a moderate thumbs up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch it again.
Once was enough.
Yeah.
But actually, this was my second time seeing it. So, yeah.
You were forced this time.
Yeah, we had to watch it officially.
All right, well, what happens?
Well, we open on P2, the second level of a parking garage, and we hear Santa Baby playing as we zoom in on one lone car. We focus on the trunk, see that there's a prisoner in there who busts out, and credits roll. Well, Angela, she's working late on Christmas Eve. Jody comes in and the boss wants to talk to her. Jim comes into her office and he apologizes for his behavior at the Christmas party. It's one of those please don't tell my wife or human resources kind of situations. So he did something inappropriately sexual. Well, she assures him it's okay. And she makes a few calls to explain why she's running late to the family Christmas party. She's the last one out, pretty much, and she rides down the elevator with Carl, the building security guard, who's shutting things down and locking things up for the building to be closed for 3 days.
What, the entire building's going to be closed for 3 days? Okay.
Closed and
3
empty.
days, you say. Let's remember that.
Closed and empty except for the security guard and the parking security guard. Well, as Angela gets out of the elevator on P2 and heads to her car, we see that her phone has no reception there.
What? Your phone has no reception?
What? They've eliminated the phone factor.
We're covering all the tropes here.
Yes. Well, she gets into her car, turns the key, nothing happens. So she goes back into the building, except the doors are all locked now. She can't get in. She finds a different security guard, Thomas, asks him to unlock the elevator. He offers her to jump her car's battery. He's got a charger and everything. He seems really nice. That doesn't help, and he offers to share his own Christmas meal with her. He's just joking, though. Maybe. Yeah. Well, Angela calls a taxi for a ride and sits to wait in the building lobby. When she gets the call that it's arrived, she can't get out the locked front door. And Carl is nowhere to be found. And the taxi eventually leaves. Well, the lights go out, and Thomas, the younger security guard, grabs her from behind and chloroforms her. And she wakes up chained to a table. And Thomas has a whole Christmas dinner set up for her, with candles and everything. And he's even changed her dress while she was unconscious.
Wasn't that nice?
That was so thoughtful of him. Yeah, well, understandably, she's upset, except he acts like this is the most normal date in the world. He's a little wacky. He talks about the books he's been reading, and she figures maybe it's best just to go along with this for now. Angela...
And maybe that's a good place to stop.
Angela stalls and, tries to play him along, and, well, of course,
Things escalate.
Things escalate, and, it's a game of cat and mouse.
Yeah.
In this abandoned, closed building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, okay, so at this point in his career, Wes Bentley took very few roles, and the ones he did take were just for drug money, which he admitted himself later in an interview.
Yeah, he said cocaine and heroin, I think.
I'm only doing this for the drug money.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought he was the best part of this.
Yeah, he was fine in the role.
Yeah.
You wouldn't tell you wouldn't know he was drugged out or anything.
Yeah, both the actors are fine.
Oh, they're very good.
The acting is good.
Yeah.
It's just too long, too much of it.
Yeah.
It starts out just fine, but drags in the middle, far longer than it needs to be. The cat and mouse games seem to take about 150% of the movie's runtime.
It does feel that way.
And we've all seen this kind of thing so many times in other films. She runs, she hides, he finds her. She runs, she hides, he finds her. She fights back, he gets away. She fights back, he gets away. She runs, she hides, he finds her. She fights back, she gets away. She runs, she finds you. Yeah, well, you get it.
Okay, we get the idea.
Yeah, it's over and over and over. Come on, kill her already or get away or something.
Yeah. And Rachel Nichols, I've seen her in other things. She was very good.
Yeah. Again, the acting was fine. It was just very poorly paced.
Yeah, strong and determined, and
or just too much of the same things over and over.
She reminds me a little bit of Elizabeth Moss. She kept reminding me a bit of. I've thought that before in things that they remind me of each other a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
don't remember her well enough to comment.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I mean that as a compliment. They're both very good. Yeah. But anyway,
Okay.
a man movie.
Well, starring someone who doesn't look like Elizabeth Moss is Whoever Slew Auntie Roo, also known as Who Slew Auntie Roo, which rhymes much better, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Who Slew Auntie Roo from 1972.
And this is a very British movie.
Directed by Charlie Harrington, written by David D. Osborne, Robert Blees, and Jimmy Sangster, stars Shelley Winters. She doesn't look anything like her. No.
No, not Carrie Ann Moss? No, not really.
Mark Lester and Chloe Franks, hour and 31 minutes, trailer in the show notes.
Classic. Or is it? Well, it's slow moving, it's dated, and very tame as far as the horror elements.
It's a 70 British movie.
But it's got enough weirdness to make it interesting. And Shelley Winters gives a good performance as the baddie Aunt Roo, along with a good cast. Even the kids are pretty good in this. So overall, I give it a thumbs up.
It's rare to find good kids in a horror movie.
But
People are getting better with that,
this
I
had
think,
'em.
with the more modern casting. They're getting more reasonable, better acting kids.
Yeah,
But in
yeah.
the 70s, they didn't try so hard.
Not always. Yeah.
Well, we hear a woman singing as we pan over a huge collection of old-looking dolls. Dolls in a horror movie? Well, she's all dressed up and wearing a tiara as she looks at the too old girl in a crib. We soon see that the girl is really just a mummified corpse.
Ew.
Credits roll as Mr. Benton drives through the woods and stops in front of a big house. Benton is a psychic, and he goes inside to talk to Mrs. Forrest, the woman from earlier. They're going to have a seance to talk to Catherine, Mrs. Forrest's daughter. We hear the little girl's voice, but she soon has to leave. Kind of get the impression that he's faking somehow, but we don't know how.
He's a total fraudster, yeah.
Yeah, well, we don't know that for sure at this point.
Well, that was my assumption. Yeah.
Christopher and Katie Combs are children at an orphanage. Miss Henley, the grouchy teacher, is annoyed that they never speak. Mrs. Forrest throws a great big Christmas party every year for some of the children who live there. Miss Henley soon announces the names of the 10 children who are going to the party. Christopher and Katie are not invited.
And that is so mean to have an orphanage and only some of the kids get to go to this wonderful Christmas party at the mansion.
Only the teacher's favorite get to go. These 2 kids don't speak. They're bad kids. Beat them and abuse them because it's in a British orphanage in the 70s, and that's what you do.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah.
Give them some gruel and send them to their hovely corners.
And spoiler, Mrs. Forrest is Auntie Roo.
Yes.
That's what she likes the kids to call her.
Mrs. Forrest complains to Albie the butler that she hasn't gotten a list of children for the party yet. Mr. Harrison, the pig man.
The what?
The pig man.
Yeah, that's how he's listed in
He's
the
the
credits.
butcher.
He's the butcher. He comes with the meats.
He wants to be paid before he'll leave the turkey. There's some gossip about little Catherine Forrest, who simply vanished one day. That's the daughter.
Huh.
Well, Inspector Willoughby drives the children to the party. Christopher and Katie have hidden in the trunk as stowaways, and they sneak in the back door while Albie pulls a knife on them. Mrs. Forrest is an American, which makes her a novelty in the area. She wants the children to call her Auntie Roo, and Miss Henley is shocked when Albie brings in the 2 mute stowaways. Well, Mrs. Forrest is friendly and nice, even though Miss Henley hates those kids. She tells the story about how she was an entertainer who married Colonel Forrest, who is now on the other side of the mirror. It's all very festive and cheery. A great party.
Yeah, and Auntie Roo insists the 2,
Yeah, we got room for everybody.
Yeah, they should stay. Yeah.
The children all go to bed, except for Katie, who slides down the banister. This triggers a flashback for Auntie Roo, and we see how Catherine originally died.
Ooh.
Plop.
Yeah.
Well, the old woman is planning a seance for late that night, and Mr. Benton soon arrives and begins. He's a bit loud, and Katie hears him from upstairs. Catherine says she hears many children in the house.
Well, yeah, they're all upstairs asleep.
Christopher wakes up and sees a woman talking into a microphone. Yes, the whole seance is being faked.
Mm-hmm.
Still, Katie enters the room at the peak of the seance, and Mrs. Forrest thinks it's her own daughter. Both Albie and Benton see the jewels in with the old woman's money, and the crooked old psychic is paying the servants for their cooperation. In the morning, on Christmas Day, Mrs. Forrest suddenly decides she wants to adopt Katie. She's not interested in Christopher. All the children rush in to see what Santa brought them, and Katie gets a very special gift, a teddy bear, just like the one Catherine used to have.
And Christopher is not on board with being split up from little Katie.
No, and we'll stop there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old lady's crazy. She thinks Katie's her daughter and wants to adopt her.
And she's pretty batty. Yeah.
It took a very long time to get to the horror part of the movie. There's a mummy and a child kidnapping and maybe a ghost. That's about it. There are numerous mentions of Hansel and Gretel that make any hidden themes a little too obvious.
Yeah, there's definitely a homage to Hansel and
Well,
Gretel.
the whole plot is, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Shelley Winters is very good here as the crazy old Mrs. Forrest, and everyone else does fine. Overall, however, the story is very tame and moves kind of probably more slowly than it should.
Yeah. The distance of time and geography adds some interest. Yeah.
If you like British horror movies, this is fine.
This
It's decent enough.
It's one to check out.
Yeah, it's not one of the best, but if you're looking for British horror of the Christmas type,
Yeah.
there's not many. All right, it's time for some short films. We're going to start off with one that's running a little late this year. It's called Hollows 2024. Written and directed by Jack Horahine. Stars Julia Horahine. A little over 6 minutes, and this one's on YouTube. What happens?
Well, it's Halloween and trick-or-treat time has just ended. So a woman goes back inside her house, seems kind of relieved that it's over. She talks to her best friend on the phone about how hard Halloween is. She had a bad experience in the past.
We don't know what that experience was, but something's about Halloween.
Uh-huh. Wait, did she remember to shut the door? And is that a pentagram outside on her lawn?
Never a good sign.
Well, she'd better go outside and investigate. Or maybe she shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't get much backstory on why she doesn't like Halloween. I assume someone died, but we don't get any details. Otherwise, it looks good, and it's very creepy. Even outside in the dark, we can clearly see what's going on, which is always a plus.
I like it when the lighting people and technical people
How is it
know
so many of these
how
short films can get that right, and so many of these huge budget things don't?
They're in a cave and you can't see a darn thing. Yeah. Yeah, in a movie like this, yeah, you can give the impression and we understand that it's nighttime, but we can still see. I like that. Yeah.
All right, and for our first of two holiday-themed shorts, we've got Up on the Housetop. Directed by Dakota Millett and Michael Fisher. Written by Laura Herring, Dakota Millett, and Michael Fisher. Stars Samantha Holland, Kayla Anderson, Dakota Millett, and Michael Fisher. I think Dakota Millett and Michael Fisher may have had something to do with this.
Maybe, yeah.
Hey, it's 15 minutes long, and you can watch this one on YouTube. And this is my favorite of the week.
It's right up there.
Yeah.
I don't know, it between this and the other Christmas one. Yeah, it's hard to say.
I'm going to call this one good just because of the production values.
Okay.
This is feature-length movie worthy.
It is, yeah, it's super quality.
What happens?
4 siblings are spending some time together on Christmas Eve just after the death of their parents. Who gets what? They're there at their parents' house. And they have embarrassing photos and stories about each other as the group bonds.
We should do this every year.
Yeah. Well, later that night, there's someone in the house. Todd grabs Dad's shotgun, which he says is full of mostly harmless bird shot.
It'll just scare the intruder away.
Well, except he shoots the intruder, and
It's not bird shot.
it's not harmless. But what's that sound up on the rooftop? Who did he shoot?
Uh-oh.
Whoops.
Okay, this is pretty amazing. The quality of the entire story is on par with any feature film. It looks great. It's well acted. The special effects are good. It's kind of funny in places.
Mm-hmm.
The pacing is perfect, and I really enjoyed this one tremendously.
Me too.
Yeah.
More to it than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one.
All right, and then our second Christmas story is called The Christmas Grotto. Written, directed, and starring Will McDaniel. A little over 5 minutes, and it's on YouTube.
No, is that Will McDaniel is the main guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the writer, he's the actor, he's the star. I don't know, maybe he did everything. I didn't read all the credits.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah. Well, a guy is out looking for his lost dog in a field when he comes across a seedy-looking little camper with Christmas Grotto painted on a sign. He sees Santa inside and enters to ask about his dog. And what he finds is not his dog.
No, that's not a dog.
Yes.
Wow.
Come sit on my knee. Oh, my.
Yeah, we just recently watched one called The Limb Fairy, which Will also did. And it was just last week or the week before. and thought it was hilariously funny. Now that it's December, this one stood out in our feed. So it's a similar style to that with his organic-looking stop-motion creatures. I wonder if he uses Spam. Looks like Spam.
It looked pink and meaty, like like Spam, yeah.
It's weird and silly and everything we want in a Christmas horror short. Very, very good.
Yeah, this was excellent.
This is your favorite?
I think I'm going to go with this as my favorite overall.
All right.
Yeah. And then we come up to my least favorite.
I knew you were going to say that.
My least favorite of the week.
This short film, Creepy Mansion by the Sea. Written and directed by Robert Dapp, and it doesn't have any stars, but it's made by Kling AI and Suno AI. 4 minutes long. Yep, it's AI generated again.
Mm-hmm. It is.
How would you compare this to that one we saw a couple weeks ago that you hated so badly?
Better. Because this is consistent
that one had a story.
Throughout. Yes, but this one is consistent throughout.
All right.
With the look of it. The creatures and the mansion.
All right. Well, a few weeks ago, we featured... I was going to usually start out telling you what happens in the plot, but this one doesn't have a plot, so we'll go straight to the commentary. Well, a few weeks ago, we featured an AI-generated short that we both trashed harshly. Still, it seemed like this AI thing is going to be around for a while, so it may not hurt to stay on top of what's developing.
They keep making more of it. So
and I don't think that's ever going to stop.
Can't fight it now that the genie's out of the bottle. Yeah.
Well, this one has no story. None at all. It's a slideshow of animated, AI-generated zombies and corpses, all in weird poses, sometimes moving in frightening ways through an old mansion by the sea. The video is purely visual, although the music is appropriate for what we see. There's no dialogue or sound effects other than the music. And what we see is pretty cool. The character designs, the gothic house and furnishings, and the situations that some of the monsters are in are all very nicely done. There's a lot of detail in many of the images, and any one of these characters could be the subject of a story in itself. Again, there's no plot, so a little of this probably goes a long way, but the visuals are very promising. Now, if they could just create an actual coherent story with them.
It would make it more entertaining.
Any of the images from this are really cool. I would take a poster of almost any of these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they look awesome.
But it's not a video. It's not really.
It's not, yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Well, the images are impressive. It's a series of clips that are short, and that is because of the current limits of AI.
You get a story moving, and by the time the story is over, it's forgotten what the characters look like, or
it starts hallucinating, basically.
You've seen those ones that morph into one thing, into another, and that's what happens if you run these things for too long.
Mm-hmm. The consistency of the images is good. I liked that they all had the look and vibe that was
which is a tricky thing to do with AI.
Yeah,
you were playing with the image playground,
Apple's new image playground,
and you couldn't get two pictures of yourself to look right.
Yeah. With that one, and this is true with many AIs. Like you say, I want a two-headed. This is one I was farting around with. I want a two-headed monkey in a laboratory setting being stung by a wasp, and it would kind of generate variations of that, but then. You ask it again, and the images are completely different. It's not
completely different style, even.
Yeah. It's hard to get. Yeah.
So this is kind of impressive in what it is.
Yeah, the music was appropriate, kind of generic, and like Brian said, a story would be nice.
That would be the next step.
Yeah. But I still pretty much am unimpressed overall with works of this kind. The only skill and talent that you put into it is being able to give a computer the appropriate commands and have it generate everything properly.
So you're saying computer coders and programmers have no talent because all they do is type in words?
That doesn't make...
it's not the same thing?
It's not the same thing.
It kind of is.
Yeah. I don't give the same credit to creators of AI works as, filmmakers.
They're no artists.
Animators.
Yeah, they're not. They're programmers.
Yeah.
They're not artists.
Yeah. It's soulless crap.
Oh, my.
Yeah. It doesn't hold a candle to, the Christmas Grotto or these other shorts.
Yeah, the Christmas Grotto does not look good. It's not an artistic movie or beautiful or anything.
Oh, but it's stupid and funny.
It's real, though.
It's stupid and funny, and it's real, and it's got genuine humor to it. And, yeah.
Okay. Well, our final one this week looks really cool also. It's called The Woods, written and directed by Remington Smith, and it stars Kristen Degree and David Conrads. Almost a little under 9 minutes, and, of course, it's on YouTube also. And what happens here?
It's a grim piece of work. Yeah, boy. A woman tries to get into a snow-covered truck on a deserted road. There's a dead man inside under a blanket. And it's very cold and desolate here. She has to use, it's not a rock, but a crude tool to open a can of food. Night falls and she makes a campfire. The next morning, she follows footprints in the snow and finds a zombie. And before then, I was thinking, yeah, this is some kind of apocalypse has happened. And sure enough, it's a zombie apocalypse. We only see the one, though. Well, she muzzles him, though, so it can't bite her.
Which is a good idea. They should do that more often.
Restrains him. And we see that he's not just any random zombie.
Nope, she knows this guy.
Yeah.
Do zombies remember who they were? Well, we kind of get a little glimpse of that answer here.
Maybe, yeah.
But there's no dialogue in this one at all, but as it progresses, we get a pretty good idea of what's going on. It's all very sharp and clear. Even the pitch black night shots, which we commented on earlier.
Again, we can see in the dark.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And it looks great. Would have been nice to have gotten more of the story.
Oh, yeah.
Or what she's really doing, or, yeah.
It's one that left me wanting more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Why is this happening?
Yeah. I mean, I liked it, but it's not a happy one.
No, it's definitely a depressing ending.
You were warned, but yeah, it's really good.
We ended this week on a downer, but it's a good downer.
But it's a good downer, an entertaining downer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, next week we will have 5 more holiday-themed movies for you. And a bunch of shorts to go with it, just like always.
Nice.
Yeah. In the meantime, if you stop over at horrorguys.com, you can see the short films as we post them one a day. Or go over to horrorweekly.com and read the full-length, spoiler-filled reviews of all these movies. If there's one you can't find, or you just, like P2, that we sort of said is not really worth watching, read the synopsis. That way you don't have to. At least you'll know what the story is about.
And if you want to write to us and tell us that P2 is your favorite movie, you can explain,
Email at horrorguys.com.
You can tell us why, we're wrong, or, if, feel free to communicate with us on these. If you disagree or, have different points to make about these things.
A lot of people listen to the podcast on YouTube, of all places. I don't know why they don't use a regular YouTube podcast app, but YouTube seems to get a lot of listeners.
It's quick,
and it's very easy to post there.
Quick and easy, and
yeah. We reviewed the Omicron Killer a couple weeks ago, and the writer and producer of that commented. And
oh, cool! I didn't notice that.
He didn't like that we called his movie weird.
Oh.
But then he called it weird like 18 times, so I think he was joking with us.
Okay.
I called him weird when it was over.
Okay.
That's weird.
That's weird.
Yeah, we do definitely want to hear from you. Email at horrorguys.com for email. Comment in the YouTube place. If you're on social media, we're pretty much everywhere. Check out the bottom of the show notes, and we get those links to all our various social media places. But until next week, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Ho, ho, ho. Sit on my knee.
Sit on my knee.